Kia ora tātou, really nice to have you with us today. So welcome to our next quarterly update. We'll talk you through how the session will work. We'll begin with a karakia and then I'll give you an overview of who you'll hear from today and we'll get straight into it quickly. So for today's session, it has been recorded. So if there's things that we go through that you want to catch again or you wish you could have seen some of the slides, we'll share the link with you in the chat from the session and circulate it to the address list. So there's plenty of opportunity to keep in touch. As we go, you'll hear from a number of speakers. So if you've got a question, you can just drop that into the Q&A button or put a hand up if that's easier as well. And we'll keep an eye out as we go to interact with you there. I think that's probably all in those updates. So great to have you with us. Kia ora, no mai haere mai, Carl Billington Tokuinga. My name is Carl. I'll serve as our MC today. And let's begin with a karakia together.
But it does make me anxious about.
Could Lisa come to the karakia slide, please? Karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pona muti moana. E huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou i a tātou katoa. Ui e, taiki e. Thanks again, everyone. And on our next slide, we'll show you who we're going to be hearing from today. So first, we're going to hear from Sarah Gillies, our Chief Executive. And we'll then, Sarah's going to give us an update on some of the highlights since our last forum, our last update together. And then what we're looking at in the authorities' work looking ahead. Then we're going to get an update on the power innovation pathway and some of the exciting things that have been happening in that space with Mark. And then we'll give an update from the Energy Competition Task Force, and we have a new introduction for you there, but I won't steal Rob and Iona's thunder just yet. And then in the closing sections, we'll have an update on our consumer care obligations with Ginny, and close out with security of supply and market impacts again as we look ahead. So a good full topic. And again, just to reiterate for those of you who just joined us, the session's been recorded and we'll share the slides and the content with you. And if you have questions throughout, there's a nice Q&A button you can use just to drop them in or use the hand function. Yeah, thanks everyone. Well, let's pass over to Sarah, our Chief Executive. Kia ora, Sarah, it's great to have you with us today. As always, really appreciate your time. It's a shock that we're in May already, and autumn officially ends this weekend. It feels like it was just a week or two ago we were here doing the February update. So keen to pass over to you because I know a lot's been happening. Could you just talk us through some of the top of mind highlights for you?
Yeah,
Kia ora,
sure.
Sarah. Thank you.
And kia ora, nice to be here. Thanks for someone's popped in the chat. Maybe check your mute is on. That would be awesome. I could hear a little bit of feedback before, but sounds like it might be all sorted. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So yeah, a lot's been happening. I think the first thing to say really is that, you know, we are keeping up delivery on a really ambitious program of work. And when I talk to people out in the sector, I get a lot of feedback that the EA is really busy, you're really pushing out a lot of things, there's a lot of consultation to engage with, there's a lot happening. And I know that has an impact on all of you who are, you know, reading our papers and engaging with our material, but it's really important. There's a lot to be done. And for those of you who were at Downstream a little while ago, we talked a lot about the fact that there is a big challenge, a lot to be done. So my preference is that we are kind of turning that talk into real action and getting stuff out the door and getting things happening, and that's what we've been focused on doing. So yes, there has been a huge amount of delivery in the last little while, and we are keeping up that important delivery pace. And I thank you all for your engagement and, you know, reading those papers and engaging with us. And we've talked in the past about how we're trying to do that engagement differently too, so that it doesn't necessarily require you to do quite so much writing, but can be verbal and that kind of thing as well. But I think, you know, a lot happening. I think a lot of people sort of wonder, how does it fit together? And I think, you know, for me, it really, yeah, we've got a jigsaw puzzle picture for you. How does it fit together? I think for me, it is that thing about kind of coming back to the simple focus about what we're trying to achieve. We don't know exactly how the future is going to play out because this is a system, but if we come back to what we hear, If we come back to what we're here for, it's really about making sure that consumers can benefit from an affordable and reliable supply of
yeah, if it was an option, they make it pretty uncompelling. For some reason, it looks more expensive. It's probably not. I just don't understand what it is.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Alrighty.
Cool.
Someone's not checking their messages. I'm just going to carry on.
Yeah, Smarty 7-year live.
It's super. If you can hear us, it looks like you're not on mute. If you could help us out, please. Thank you. Sorry,
Thank you
Sarah.
so much. All right, so where was I? Jigsaw puzzle, how does it all fit together? For me, it's about coming back to consumers want an affordable and reliable supply of electricity. So that's where our focus is. And if you look at all the different pieces of work that we're putting out, it really all comes back to those things. And I hope what you've been able to see in the last little while is our consultation papers and decision papers drawing the link back to those things. So whatever it is that we're talking about in a specific, really detailed piece of, the regulations or whatever, you can see it linking back to affordable and reliable and how a consumer is going to benefit. And that's really what we're trying to do. So I think that for me is the kind of main thing that helps anchor the jigsaw puzzle. And yes, there's a future, and how does the future look? And it, again, for us, that's about, what have we got now that's really served us really well in terms of the market that we have and the great system that we have, but how does it need to evolve for the future? And one of the things that we've just put out recently is our decentralisation green paper, which I really encourage you to have a look at and engage with, because that's talking about how we see the future evolving to support consumers to have, again, a more affordable system, a more resilient system, and how they can benefit. So really encourage you to have a read of that too. So that's kind of where I see it all fitting together at the moment.
Sarah, awesome. And as you're hearing from Sarah, a lot of activities underway and a lot of public engagement and open engagement. We've had things like the Wānanga last week, there's consultation papers open. So really keen for you to interact with us and grab those opportunities. And again, all of those links will be in the notes of follow-up for you. So Sarah, unless there's anything else that we wanted to canvas together, what was next on our list?
Well, I think it's thinking about the year ahead in terms of the specific work we've got coming up. So you will have seen the budget announcements last week and the fact that the authority has been able to have approval for the increase in our levy, which we are really grateful for, and will allow us to continue some of the really important work that we've begun. Some of that funding goes out the door to the market operations to make the system run, and so that's obviously really important. And some of it goes to our kind of policy work program, which I think is something that you're probably all interested in. And again, that kind of comes back to those key areas. So one of those key areas is affordability, and what are we kind of planning to do? We're aware, obviously, with the recent price rises and thinking about the impact on households of that. So we have been very active in terms of engaging with retailers about their price rise intentions, and we're going to be sharing some insights on that very soon that kind of shows how consumers are impacted. Our consumer care obligations became binding, which you'll all be well aware of, and which is an important protection for consumers. We have talked to you about the fact that we have gone to market for a comparison and switching service, and we'll be able to provide some more updates on that soon, but that's really important to support consumers to ensure they're getting the best possible plan for themselves. We hosted our third Wānanga recently, and that is a way that we find really helpful to engage with the sector, but also consumer advocates to talk about what can be done to support consumers, not just what we can do, but what others can do too. And we had great engagement from across government, as well as sector and industry as well, and consumer groups. We obviously have an important program of work that's continuing in terms of the task force, and Iona and Rob are going to give you an update on that. And continuing the implementation of the MDAG recommendations. And you'll be aware that we did a lot of work to collect more information on the retail market, and we'll be publishing a lot more information about that, which we've talked quite a bit about in the past, but that's underway. And you'll also have heard us talking a little bit about consumer mobility. So that kind of comes back to that idea of agency for consumers, that they've got choice, that they can get the benefit of lots of different options and things that really work for them. And that's a real focus for us. And we'll have a bit more to say about that in the future too.
Good, Sarah. And so those areas are really dialing in a really strong focus on consumer and affordability. But there's also work or conversations underway around security in the system as well.
So security of supply is always a really big focus for us, and obviously in future as well. You will have seen that we have been publishing more information about thermal fuels. We are now publishing a weekly snapshot, which we've had some good feedback on, and I really encourage you to keep engaging with that and sharing that. Obviously the signs are that for this winter, things have improved. We've had some rainfall and obviously the Methanex deal. So we are in a better position for this winter. But of course, we're always kind of thinking about the future ahead as well. And the big thing that we've talked about a lot before is the importance of more generation coming to market. So a big focus on that, and we'll be able to talk more about that too. Quite a bit of activity in that space as well. More flexibility, so some work coming in terms of for the new year in terms of supporting flexibility. Plenty of work in the distribution space coming for the year ahead. And we're also going to talk a little bit about innovation in the future as well, but Mark's going to give you an update on that.
Kia ora, Sarah, thank you. And there's some strong potential links between security of supply and resilience, but also some of the efficiency work that's underway as well.
Yeah. So I think, all these things link together and they're not kind of mutually exclusive. So definitely I've kind of alluded to the network connection, network and distribution pricing work, that connection pricing that's been happening. And obviously more updates to come on that. And also a sort of ongoing roadmap for our market operations service providers as well in terms of that future and where things are heading. So plenty of work in that space.
Awesome, Sarah. And Sarah, we have one question from Nick Haynes from Electric Kiwi. So kia ora, Nick, thank you. And Nick's noted the comms around some of the potential changes underway around Power Switch and that service for New Zealanders. And Nick's asked around what clarity can we provide, or what time frame are we on about being able to provide more information about this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I need to check with the team exactly, but I'm expecting that we'll have some more updates to provide in the next week or so. I know there's a lot of interest in that, and there's a lot of kind of pieces of that puzzle that are quite important.
Yeah, so more coming really soon. Thanks, Nick. Great question. Sarah, that's all the questions that we have in the chat for the moment. As always, really appreciate your time with us and look forward to keeping in touch.
Great. I think there's some really good updates today, so I encourage you all to stay for the whole session and hear all the updates and ask questions, and also get in touch with us afterwards if you've got them. Kia ora,
Kia ora, Sarah. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite to come and join us Mark Harrington, the GM of our Corporate Market Services, and we're going to hear from Mark around some of the work that's been underway and some of the get-togethers and initiative in the Power Innovation Pathway. So kia ora, Mark, great to have you with us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carl. Kia ora koutou. Hi, everyone. So yes, I've got a couple of updates today on the Power Innovation Pathway, and I suppose first of all, for anyone who hasn't yet heard about what this is, the Power Innovation Pathway is a new initiative that we launched in September, and we think of it as our open front door to innovators across the electricity sector. It's an accessible and structured process for innovators to engage with the authority and receive the regulatory support and advice that they need to help us accelerate their ideas, their new technology, their new business models to market faster. The pathway is here to also address any real or perceived regulatory barriers, to unpick those and then share the learnings that come from that. And it's also doing a great job already of helping us at the authority understand all of the great work happening out there in the sector. We're understanding more and more about the emerging opportunities, the emerging risks, and working with those across the sector and addressing those as they build and as they learn. So the first of the updates I've got today is around some new initiatives that we've announced our support for. So amongst the different ways that we're supporting innovators through the pathway, we're providing what we call enhanced support to projects. So we already support 6 innovation projects across the sector, and details of those are on our website. Yesterday, we announced support for 2 additional initiatives. The first of them is the Franklin Energy Sharing Pilot. That's with Climate Connect, Aotearoa, Araake and Counties Energy. And that's looking at installing solar panels and battery technology, and then sharing the electricity, or rather sharing the proceeds from that across 3 different community organisations, and exploring the foundations of what would be needed in the regulation to support things like peer-to-peer energy sharing. The second project that we've announced support for is the Queenstown Electrification Accelerator with Rewiring Aotearoa and Araake. And that's much more in the space of rolling out and scaling up through the energy transition, and looking at rolling out, scaling up things like solar power, electric vehicles, battery storage across Queenstown, and seeing what barriers emerge, what frictions emerge as that really hits scale, and how to integrate that into the system. And so we're really excited to run alongside that project and see what they find, what they uncover as they go. So that's the first update that I've got from the Power Innovation Pathway. 2 new projects provided. The second one is on an event we ran back on the 7th of May. We called our Innovation Day. We invited all of those who have engaged with the pathway to date together for a whole day here in Wellington. And we had 51 innovators and regulators from different agencies. We had another 19 authority staff and 3 of our authority board members all in one room for the whole day. And it was pretty exciting. There was a lot of energy in the room. In the morning, we had presentations and conversations with those projects that we're providing enhanced support to, understanding what is their work, what are the barriers they're tackling, what's the support they need from the authority, and ultimately what's the value that they're looking to deliver to consumers. And then in the afternoon, we ran a series of roundtable workshop discussions to bring innovative perspectives into our work as the authority. So Sarah earlier mentions how we are doing a huge amount of work, particularly in our policy space, and looking for new ways to get people engaged with that. This is one of those ways where we, through roundtable discussions, got a huge number of quite different and fresh perspectives into our work to stretch our thinking and accelerate how we can deliver change as the authority. And largely across the whole day, one of the things that I found most exciting was just building that community of innovators and regulatory agencies across the sector, so that as we all move forward together, we can work faster and more efficiently as the sector progresses. So that was a really exciting day. Some great feedback from attendees, and we're looking forward to wrapping together some of what's come from that day and sharing that across the sector. So those are the 2 updates I had.
Well, and just to jump in on that one, yes. Mark, it was a privilege to be there on the day, and there was a genuine buzz in the room.
Absolutely.
So those are the 8 projects and initiatives that Mark's referred to that are all on our website and through all the announcements. So if there's any of those you want to learn more about, really do encourage you to have a look. So yeah, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, and we're continuing to pull more information together about them and share that. So we've got some videos coming online soon as well to share more and more about what's happening in that space.
Thank you.
And so I suppose as I wrap up, just a reminder that the innovation pathway remains open. There's the form on the website that is what we refer to as our open front door. And we'd encourage you or anyone you know that's looking at something innovative in the sector and may have a real or perceived regulatory barrier to visit the website and share what you're doing with us and see if we can help out at all. So yes, that's all I had to say.
Sure, Mark. It's a great initiative that looks set to make some real differences. So really appreciate you keeping us in touch.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Mark.
Thanks, everyone.
And next up, I'd like to invite Iona Milek, our new program director, and Rob Bernot, our program manager. Rob's joining us online. Kia ora, Rob, and kia ora, Iona. Really great to pass over to you both for an update on the task force work. So,
thanks, Carl.
The floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Iona Milek. As Carl said, I've joined as the new program director for the Energy Competition Task Force. As you recall, the task force was set up jointly by the authority and the Commerce Commission in the wake of the electricity supply and price crunch last winter. And it was really set up to focus on a number of measures looking particularly at how to improve competition in the wholesale and retail markets, and how to provide more options for consumers in the energy use. I'm here, I'm joined by Rob Bernot, who has ably been leading the program so far. And the fact that we're both here, I think, is just a real indication of the importance that the authority is placing on this work, both the task force as a whole, but in particular the level playing field measures, which we consulted on recently and are working hard on. So this is really to enable Rob in particular to get into the detail and increasingly focus on those measures, and have the requisite kind of focus and resource on the program as a whole. So yeah, we're just aware these are potentially really big changes for the industry, and we want to make sure that we've got it right and we're resourced for that. So in terms of the program itself, so at the outset, I just want to say we really are delivering as fast as we ever have been. And you should have seen that, I think, with a number of consultations out over recent months. And hot off the press, we have 2 new papers out today. I'll come on to that later. But I just wanted to reiterate a huge thank you to everyone who's engaged with those consultations and with the work over recent months. We've seen a huge level of interest and engagement, and I think potentially a record number of submissions even. And this is going to be really, really crucial as we work through the detail and deliver these potential changes over the coming months. So thank you for that. Now, specifically, there have been a number of developments since the last of these quarterly updates. So our new standardised flexibility product for super peak hedge contracts, you'll be aware that began voluntary trading in January. So we've seen really good levels of trading on this over recent months. We've got volumes traded right from Q3 this year until Q1 2028, so that's really good. And we just really encourage industry to continue to participate in those fortnightly trading events for the Super Peak product. We've also now got a new flexibility hedge products dashboard on our website. So that's to show the prices and traded volumes of key types of flexibility products to help industry make operational and investment decisions. So we also consulted in February and March on proposed changes to give consumers more control over their energy costs and to harness the power of new technologies like solar and batteries. So in particular, those included proposals for distributor rebates to consumers who supply electricity back to the grid, and for time-varying retail pricing for electricity consumption and supply. So we received over 200 submissions on those consultations. Yeah, it was astounding, and the team did a heroic effort of really working through those. And we continue submissions on that working paper. And after carefully considering that feedback, our view is that allocating firming for PPAs is not actually the best way to encourage investment in new generation projects. We think it could inadvertently distort market and investment incentives for the very issue we're looking to unlock. So we're now looking to address the underlying issue of firming for new intermittent generation through other measures in the first package of task force work. So primarily through those proposed level playing field measures, but also through the work on standardised flexibility products. We're also supporting further complementary initiatives to encourage PPAs, including the work by the Business New Zealand Energy Council to develop a new publicly available PPA template. And we think this approach will better enable new generation investment without the risks to the market and to investment associated with allocation. So I'll leave it there, but again, thank you so much for all your input and engagement so far. It's been absolutely crucial to allow us to both continue to deliver at the pace we have been, but crucially to get this right and continue working with you. So please do keep it up over the coming months.
Kia ora, Anna. And we have one question from Nick at Electric Kiwi. Kia ora, Nick, thanks again. Nick's question is thanking you for the update and then asking if there's any particular reason why the submissions on level playing field options haven't been published yet. and when we'd expect to see them. I suspect that's just to do with the sheer volume of the admin task, given the number of pages we got. And for anyone who might not be aware what Nick's referring to, again on our website, under the pages that detail the leaving playing field work of the task force page, we've published traditionally the submissions that have come in. So again, when we follow up afterwards, we can include that link to that page for any of you who would like to keep up with that detail there. But Anna or Rob, sense of timing?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, very, very shortly, I can say that. I mean, I think it's just a reflection of the volume of detail we have, but also we're keen to keep up this work at pace. So we thought rather than just spend however long it took to process them all, put them up, and then have to start analysing them. We wanted to do that at the same time, but we know you're all keen to see them, and we really will have them up very soon.
Yeah, kia ora, Nick. Thank you. So yeah, strong commitment for us to get that visible, working in parallel as we go. Aina, that is all of the questions that we have on Task Force. So kia ora, thank you for your time. Rob, kia ora, thank you for your support, as always, also online. Thank you. We'll move now into our compliance and consumer care update. So really pleased to welcome Ginny Murray, who's our Manager, Consumer Compliance and Projects. Kia ora, Ginny, great to have you with us again. The floor is yours.
Yeah, tēnā koe, Carl, thanks for that. So in general news, since the last webinar, I've been recruiting and adding to my team who specifically have, they look after the consumer care obligations. So they look at queries, concerns, and obviously consumer submissions that come through. And they also assist with internal projects and education for the industry. I'll just move to the next slide. Thanks. And as you well know, these obligations, they went live on the 1st of April. Over the last couple of months, we have been steadily adding to our consumer care obligations page on our website, and just keep adding on more information for you all, and obviously for consumers. I have mentioned it before in a previous quarterly stakeholders update, but we do have the Raise a Concern submissions page on our website. So this is primarily for consumers, where they can let us know about a potential obligation breach. And we also do have a dedicated 0800 number for consumers to contact us on. So over time, we will look further into where and when these submissions come into us, like where they're happening. We'll look at analysing trends or issues, and I'd like to be able to report back in further quarterly stakeholder meetings with you all, where we can provide anonymised but relevant information about what we are seeing coming through. We also have obviously a dedicated email address. I've got that listed there on the slide for you. Consumers can use that as well to contact us about the obligations. But if you do have any questions for us, you're welcome to contact my team on the email address that obviously we've got listed there on the slide. And finally, we are also working on finalising more resources and guidance for health practitioners, and we will let you know when these items become available, but they're not too far away. I thought I would also then talk about the medically dependent consumers with you for a few minutes, and just the obligations and expectations around that. As you'll be aware, retailers must notify the authority in the prescribed form as soon as it becomes aware of an electrical disconnection of an MDC. When our monitoring team receives notifications from retailers to advise us that a medically dependent consumer has been disconnected, it will be referred on to my team, the Consumer Compliance and Projects team. And we'll review these and discuss it as well with legal, obviously, to determine if there is a breach of the obligations. However, on that note, I will mention how the country had a spate of bad weather over the last couple of months, with storms in Northland that you might remember around Easter, and then storms across Wellington at the start of May. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to remind retailers and distributors around good practice in the event of a significant emergency. So under the obligations, the coordination obligations are focused on planned service interruptions. Distribution agreements address communication requirements for unplanned service interruptions and system emergency events, but these may not specifically address the needs of medically dependent consumers. So in the event of a significant emergency, such as a major weather event, natural disaster, or widespread network failure that goes beyond business as usual disruptions, we would encourage retailers and distributors to adopt a proactive and coordinated response in relation to medically dependent consumers. So in these scenarios, we would hope that retailers and distributors work together to quickly identify and notify any medically dependent consumers at risk in those events. And then I'll move on to the next slide about the upcoming, can we just pop onto the next slide, please, and then pop back? Just the next slide down. Yeah, and your compliance reporting. So as you're aware, the consumer obligations, they previously had to do annual compliance reports. So I thought I would take this opportunity just to talk with you about it, and just firstly, please make sure that your contact details are up to date on the registry. Aside from this being a requirement under the code, we do rely on this information being correct when we are liaising with you over the compliance reports. And as you know, the obligations have a set of minimum standards that all retailers must comply with if they sell electricity to residential consumers. So what were called the alignment reports under the old consumer care guidelines are now called the compliance reports under the new obligations that came into effect on the 1st of April. So retailers that are subject to the obligations, they must provide annual compliance reports to the authority. We are working on developing these at the moment, and we will provide you further details in the next few weeks. But we will have the reports ready for you by the 1st of July, and then you'll have until September 30 to work through your report and submit it back to the authority. But one thing I do want to note is that due to the reports moving from being voluntary to a mandatory requirement, is that we will be asking for further information from you. We will be asking you to upload documents and evidence to show where you are complying with various aspects of the obligations, or telling us where we can find documents or information on your website. And if a part of the code we're asking about is not being complied with, there will be room for you to provide a response and tell us why that is, and we will need you to fill that in before you can submit your report back to us. And the next steps then will be for my team to review the reports and produce a final report, which will then be published on our website. But lastly, if you do have any questions about this process, there is the retailer's guidance on our website that can assist you. But we will be providing further details over the next few weeks. And as I mentioned before, you can also email my team at consumercare@ea.govt.nz if you do have any further questions. We'll just bounce back to industry education. So lastly, I thought I would just briefly touch on industry education. So since the last quarterly stakeholders webinar, we have delivered education on a number of things. So case studies have been published on our website. So if you go to our website and type in case studies into the search engine, our website will bring up a bunch of case studies for you. And then following on with the case study theme, we also recently hosted a case study webinar. So we had 3 members of the team sit together and actually with Carl and discuss the case studies that they each wrote about, and opened up to take questions from the audience. We've also hosted our annual auditor forum recently here in Wellington, and we also presented at a webinar on difference bids, which included the system operator running an exercise for the industry to practice submitting bids. And then lastly, we hosted an online training session for the consumer care obligations for the industry. And then just last week, we actually hosted another registry managers users course in Christchurch. In terms of what we're planning to deliver over the next wee while is actually another registry managers users course, and that's in Wellington next month in June. And I know some people were disappointed to miss out on both courses that we've got planned. So we are looking at running another course in Christchurch later this year, and considering an Auckland course as well. So if you are interested in any of those courses, please do email me and I can add you to the waiting list. So just a quick recap, we do have the course next month in Wellington. That is fully booked, but we are looking at another course in Christchurch in about September, and then another one in Auckland, because they're obviously proving pretty popular, which is great. We are also looking to host another MEP and ATH forum later in the year, so please keep an eye out for the details of that if you're interested. And I still have the compliance team writing up more case studies, and we will look to host another webinar around those later in the year. And then lastly, we're looking to run a webinar around distributed energy resources, hopefully next month. And then lastly, we're also starting to write articles that will be a monthly spotlight on the consumer care obligations, and that will go into the market brief. So the articles that the team are looking at writing they'll do a deeper dive into a particular obligation, and then they will discuss that in further detail for the industry to read about. So if there is actually anything that you are wanting to know more details about that you think would be worthy of a more in-depth article, please again just let me know, and I'll get my team to crack onto it. And Carl, that's
Brilliant,
all I've
Jenny.
got for you
A
today.
lot that's happened and also a lot coming up.
Yeah.
And you've heard the message really clearly from Jenny. Just keep in touch. You've got the consumer care at ea.gov.t address. So yeah, engage and really appreciate your time, Jenny, and the ongoing work. Thank you so much.
No worries, thank you.
Kia ora, Jenny. And as we come to our closing session for today, Sarah signalled at the start that really strong focus on security of supply. And so really delighted now to welcome Julia Hall with us, who's our manager at monitoring projects. And Julia's going to talk us through some of what we're seeing currently and as we look ahead. Kia ora, Julia. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Carl. So as Carl mentioned, I'm manager of the monitoring projects team. Just briefly before I get into security supply update, I just wanted to give an update on the monitoring team. So last year when we did our restructure at the EA, the monitoring team split into two teams, one team being the monitoring projects team, which I became manager of, and then we've also got the market intelligence team, and Victoria Nordstrom is currently acting manager of that team. So today I'm just going to give a quick update on the current security of supply situation, focusing on energy security of supply since that's been front of mind, and impacts from changes in security of supply on the market. So this is a quick summary slide. As you're probably all well aware, January to April, Q1 this year was the driest we've had on record, and I'll show just how dry it was in the next slide. But we've been lucky recently, we've had an increase in hydro storage, so we're now sitting just below mean for this time of the year. On the downside for this winter, we do have least demand response, or Meridian has least demand response available from TY. This winter, with the smelter only providing up to 50 megawatts this year of demand response for this winter compared to up to 185 megawatts last winter. But on the upside, we do have the Methanex gas swaps that recently got completed up until the end of July, and we saw TCC turn back on when that occurred. We've also had the market responding to decreasing hydro storage levels in terms of those Methanex gas deals, and then for the recent rainfall, we've seen prices responding based on the Methanex deals and the recent rain. So we had a decrease in spot prices down to about $154. That's the average price, spot price last week. That compares to around $300 over April on average. And we've also seen a decrease in futures prices now too because of that recent rain and the gas deals, down to less than 200 when we were sitting up around 325 per megawatt hour at the start of May. So this just gives a bit of a closer look. The chart at the top shows just how dry it was in Q1 this year. So the red line is the inflows over Q1 this year, and the blue bars are the historical inflow ranges from 1926 to 1924, so what we've got records for. So you can see this year in Q1, it was approximately 600, 700 gigawatt hours lower than the next lowest inflow sequence in that quarter, so very low. To put that into a bit of perspective, that's around double the amount of energy that was saved last year from TY's demand response, so quite a lot of energy. But the bottom slide, the bottom chart there is showing the better position that we're in now with the recent rainfall. So the solid purple line there is this year's hydro storage levels, and the dashed lines are for the previous 5 years. And you can see that now this year we are sitting above 3 of the last 5 years. So we're in a better position for hydro storage going into winter now than we were last year. And this shows how prices have responded to both those Methanex gas deals and that increase in rain, and also we've had on average a little bit better wind generation as well. So again, the solid purple line is this year, and this compares to the previous 5 years as well. So you can see that big drop in prices down there from sitting up around above 300, which was similar to 2021 when we had low hydro storage as well, and now down to around the 150, 160-ish mark after the gas deals happened and we got that rainfall. And the next slide just shows also the futures prices, which have also dropped. Again, the solid purple line being this futures prices for this winter. That's an average of all futures prices for this winter. And it shows they were sitting above 300 for quite a long period of time due to that gas uncertainty and decreasing hydro storage. Similar levels to what they got up to in 2021 when we had the low hydro storage as well, and then that drop at the end there where we had that gas deals and the recent rainfall to below 200. And I should say that's comparing to an average over the last 15 years of about 150 per megawatt hour. So this chart is one of the ones we've got, as Sarah mentioned, we've got a new thermal dashboard out, and this is one of the charts on that thermal dashboard. I've got a link in the bottom there to the dashboard, but we've got all of our dashboards linked on our data and insights page, which you'll find under industry on our homepage. So this chart in particular is showing contracted gas, so it gives a minimum and a maximum of contracted gas, which is just due to production uncertainty from the gas fields. So it gives a forward-looking view of the contracted gas that we've got in the system specifically for thermal generation, and that's net of their retail, what they supply to their retail customers. So it shows the higher contracted gas in May and June from those Methanex gas deals. Contact receives about 50 TJ a day from Methanex under that deal, which is about enough to power TCC running at full capacity. And Genesis also contracted with Methanex, allowing Methanex just to give the extra gas to Genesis while it's shut down completely over those 8 weeks. And that means gas will be displacing coal burn in the Rankins. That chart is updated monthly on our dashboard, and we've got the next update on that next week. And that's about all for me. Just in summary, I guess the security of supply situation, as Sarah said before, is looking positive for this winter, with the market responding to decreasing fuel supply in terms of hydro storage by contracting for additional energy, both gas, fuel supply and demand response, and then prices we've seen adjusting according to those underlying conditions.
Kia ora, Julia. Brilliant update, and appreciate you keeping us informed of that. The link that, Julia, that you referred to, I've just dropped into the chat for everybody. That link's there for you. Yeah, Julia, really appreciate your time and the work of the team. Thank you so much. Kia ora, Julia. So we'll close out from here together, but again, just a reminder that the webinar is recorded, and that'll process as we close out together, and we'll make that available to you shortly after the event again today. And you just hear that ongoing encouragement from the team. We're really here to chat and engage. We want to hear from you, we want to connect. And if you missed them as they were shared, you'll see again as the recording is circulated to you, all the contact details for whatever aspect of the slides interest you the most. So please continue to engage with us, and we'll continue to keep trying to make information available in the most accessible ways that we can. And our next quarterly update will be in August. Again, we'll circulate the dates closer to the time, but keep that in mind, and you'll hear from us again then. Let's close out with a closing karakia together. And again, just so appreciate your time all joining us. Thank you. So he karakia whakakapi. So kia whakaira te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, haumie, huie, taikia. Kia ora tātou, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.